Have you ever paused while filling up your car at a gas station and wondered, why does nearly every barrel of oil on Earth get priced in US dollars, no matter where it's bought or sold? It's not because the US produces the most oil, far from it. In fact, countries like Saudi Arabia, Russia, and Iraq pump millions of barrels daily without using their own currencies as the global benchmark. So how did the dollar become the default currency for the world's most essential commodity? And what happens if that system starts to crack? This isn't just about money or trade. It's about power. Behind the scenes of international finance, there's an invisible architecture that has shaped geopolitics for decades. At its core is something called the Times, Petrodollar system Times, a quiet but powerful mechanism that helps explain why the United States holds such outsized influence far beyond its borders. Let's start by reimagining how global trade works. Think of the world economy as a massive network of energy transactions. Oil sits at the center of this web, fueling everything from shipping lanes to electricity grids. Now, imagine that access to this network requires a specific key, not a physical object, but a currency. For over half a century, that key has been the US dollar. Here's how it functions. When a country like Japan wants to buy crude oil from Kuwait, it doesn't pay in yen or reals. Instead, it must first acquire US dollars, often through exports, foreign reserves, or financial markets, and then use those dollars to complete the purchase. This creates constant, built-in demand for the greenback across the globe. But the story doesn't end with the sale. Oil exporting nations earn vast sums in dollars. What do they do with all that cash? They don't just stash it under a mattress. Most of it flows back into American financial assets, US Treasury bonds, government securities, and other safe haven investments. This process, known as Times Petrodollar Recycling *, means that petrodollars earned in Riyadh or Abu Dhabi often end up financing American debt, subsidizing U.S. government spending, and supporting domestic infrastructure and defense programs. It's a self-reinforcing loop. The more oil is traded in dollars, the more countries need dollars, which strengthens the dollar's value, which in turn makes it even more attractive for future trades. But none of this happened by accident. To understand its origins, we have to go back to the mid-20th century. Before World War II, global currencies were largely tied to gold. The Bretton Woods Agreement of 1944 formalized this system, pegging other nations' currencies to the US dollar, which itself was convertible into gold. At the time, the US held the majority of the world's gold reserves, giving it unmatched monetary credibility. But by the early 1972s, mounting military expenditures from Vietnam to Cold War commitments pushed the U.S. budget to the brink. Maintaining the dollar's link to gold became unsustainable. In 1971, President Richard Nixon made a historic move. He severed the dollar's tie to gold. This moment, now known as the Nixon Shock, marked the beginning of the modern era of fiat currency, one where money derives value not from physical backing, but from trust and utility. Without gold, the U.S. needed another way to anchor the dollar's global role. That's where geopolitics came in. Around the same time, geopolitical tensions in the Middle East reached a boiling point during the 1973 Yom Kippur War. Arab oil producers, led by Saudi Arabia, imposed an embargo on Western nations supporting Israel, triggering a global energy crisis. The fallout revealed a mutual dependency. While Western economies suffered from soaring fuel prices, oil-rich Gulf states realized they couldn't afford prolonged isolation. They relied on Western military protection, technological expertise, and open markets. By 1974, behind closed doors, the U.S. and Saudi Arabia struck a pivotal understanding. Riyadh would price its oil exclusively in US dollars, and in return, Washington would guarantee security, arms sales, and political support. Crucially, Saudi Arabia also agreed to reinvest its dollar earnings into U.S. financial instruments. Other OPEC members soon followed suit. A new system was born, not codified in treaties, but sustained by strategic alignment and economic incentive. So what does this mean for American power today? First, it gives the U.S. extraordinary flexibility in managing its economy. Because so many countries hold dollars as reserves and conduct trade in them, there's always strong external demand. This allows the U.S. to run large trade deficits, importing more than it exports, without facing the kind of currency collapse that would cripple other nations. In effect, much of the world finances American consumption. Second, it grants the U.S. significant leverage in foreign policy. Since most oil transactions pass through U.S. linked banking channels, particularly SWIFT, Washington can restrict access for adversarial states. Sanctions on Iran, Venezuela, or pre-2022 Russia weren't just symbolic, they disrupted real economic lifelines by cutting off dollar access. But this system isn't without costs or critics. One major concern is imbalance. Countries that import oil must maintain large dollar reserves, leaving their economies exposed to fluctuations in U.S. monetary policy. When the Federal Reserve raises interest rates, for example, emerging markets often face capital outflows and currency depreciation even if their own economies are stable. In this sense, decisions made in Washington carry ripple effects worldwide. Another issue lies in sustainability. The petrodollar depends on continued reliance on fossil fuels. As renewable energy expands and electric vehicles grow more common, long-term oil demand could decline. If fewer transactions require dollars, the system weakens. Moreover, alternatives are emerging. A growing bloc of nations, including members of BRICS Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, are exploring ways to settle energy trades in local currencies. China, for instance, has incentivized oil purchases in yuan, offering favorable terms to partners willing to bypass the dollar. While still limited in scale, these efforts signal a shift in ambition. Saudi Arabia itself has recently entertained discussions about pricing some oil sales in non-dollar currencies, especially for Chinese buyers. Such moves don't dismantle the system overnight, but they represent cracks in the foundation. Is the petrodollar doomed? Not necessarily. Even if oil loses dominance, the dollar's role is embedded in decades of institutional trust, deep financial markets, and global habits. Transitioning away requires coordination, stability, and viable alternatives, none of which are guaranteed. Still, the era of unquestioned dollar supremacy may be evolving. The petrodollar wasn't inevitable, it was engineered. And like any human-made structure, it can change, especially as new technologies, energy models, and alliances reshape the world order. What remains clear is that control over money is never just about economics. It's about who sets the rules, who gets access, and who bears the risk. The next time you see a news headline about sanctions, currency swaps, or energy deals, remember, beneath the surface, there's likely a quiet battle over the very currency used to buy the world's oil.